Last time, we saw the arrival of Cell, which usually is a bad thing, but this time it was a good thing, and then a bad thing because Cooler took over his body. But thankfully that's done with for now. And with Bulma's ultimate creation finally complete, where do we go from here? We'll be seeing all that and more in this part 9 of What If Bulma Was a Z Fighter. Following the battle with Cell, the Saiyans decide to go back to Earth. They want to know what kind of opponent they were fighting there and what happened with Kakarot's energy. Why did it just randomly disappear at one point and then come back? It could just mean he died, but also it could mean he got some brand new type of power. And once they get back there and learn what happened, Raditz decides they might as well stay on this planet now. Vegeta and Nappa actually don't really like the idea, but Raditz has grown fond of the planet. Even before he left, he got to a point where he realized Earth wasn't so bad. Besides, they've basically just been training to get stronger in space, and nothing's really happened there, so maybe this is the best course of action. And funny enough, he's basically their leader right now because he's the strongest. So they just all stay here for the time being. Of course, not too long after, we also have the Universe 6 tournament, which is kind of a wash. There's not really a point in covering it because, well, Cell's going to be in the tournament, and he's going to beat everyone relatively easily. But one important thing to note is the fact that he picks up some interesting data on Hit. He has extra abilities inspired by the Big Getty Star. Bulma thought it would be useful to implement this into him. The ability to just copy attacks after seeing them. It's not necessarily a novel concept to her either. She's seen Goku do that to some extent, so she wondered what it would be like if Cell was able to. But not like what Goku does, copying them perfectly the first time. Basically redoing the attack one for one, and not just simple attacks. Cell tries to copy Hit's time skip. At first when he's fighting Hit, Cell does have an advantage in terms of power, but Hit has the advantage with time skip. But once Cell sees it, he's able to use time skip for himself, and then battles Hit within the time skip, easily defeating him, and thanking the assassin for the trick. He says he'd love to fight Hit once again. Hopefully they'll cross paths again sometime soon. But this tournament was a good test of Cell's strength. With an opponent like Hit, no one knows how they would have been able to defeat him. Even Goku, because he probably wouldn't have gone into the time chamber and trained for the 3 years beforehand, and it's also too early for him to get Blue Kaioken at this point. Although he is working on trying to utilize it, but here he wouldn't have been able to use it. But now with Cell as an ally, Goku has some ideas. And immediately after this arc, they decide to test out Cell's power. They kinda did test it out against Cooler, but that was different. Cooler couldn't fully use Cell's body right away, and now Goku has a new form, with Gohan having also tapped into a little bit more power himself too. This time they can have a fight with Cell, and there's not the threat of anybody dying. Goku shows off Super Saiyan Blue, while Gohan shows off Super Saiyan 2. When they fought Cooler in Cell's body, he felt some deep reserve of power come up, due to the immense rage he was feeling. He doesn't know for sure what it was, but he feels like it's the next step in his evolution. Cell does actually end up beating them in this battle because he has full control over his body, plus he has new abilities to utilize. But this is going to be great because they have an opponent that they can't really beat right now, and he's going to grow just as strong as them. The more they fight with him, the stronger he grows too. And Goku notes he senses godly ki within Cell. How is that even possible? Well, Bulma actually did that. During his training with Beerus, there was a point where Goku did come back to Earth briefly, and Cell did get some of his DNA. She just wanted to correct him to make sure he was purely good, but this actually gave him some access to godly ki, because Goku was training towards it at that point. He doesn't have a full control in it yet, but once he gets it perfectly, that's going to make for a really interesting increase in power. She really has outdone herself. She's proud. And studying Cell helps her learn more about the others too. It seems that human cells don't have much of an effect on his power and how he transforms. Cell isn't necessarily transforming, but they see that when he fights, certain cells in his body are excited, growing a lot more powerful and being stimulated by ki. And the effects of them are very similar to what she sees within the Saiyan cells that she studied for Goku. It seems that his Saiyan DNA is doing most of the work, with a little bit of Piccolo in there too. But Saiyan cells mixing with others also does help a ton because look at what happened with Gohan. And that does remind her too. So she hasn't really made any progress on finding human transformations, which is fine. She just mainly did that for her friends because she wasn't really going to use a transformation for herself. Her initial goal with training was trying to maintain her good looks anyways, and while that's not her main goal right now, that is a little bit in there somewhere. So even if she could transform, she doesn't know if she would want to ruin her looks. Her and Zarbon would have gotten along. But right now, since she basically accomplished that goal, her main thing is just to see how strong humans can grow. Not just to help her, but to help her friends too. She wants to push the limits of humans, and she doesn't see how she's able to do that here. Except through Gohan. He is half human after all. And she actually calls him into Caps Corp one day. Gohan's intrigued by the scientific side of Cell, with Bulma showing him all the info that she has on him. Gohan has kept up with his training, but he's had a lot less time to train because of his family obligations and the fact that he's working now. But he obviously still does want to grow stronger. Mainly because Goku encourages him, and Bulma says she could help. Also, she's kind of encouraging him too. She says they should take a trip to Beerus' planet, him and Cell. Just briefly, just to see what they could try and unlock there. Well, Gohan's not really too sure, but yeah, he guesses he can go there for a week or two. Maybe a little bit longer, but he's gonna have to take a sabbatical from work. She tells him not to worry, consider it an all-expenses-paid trip. This is for the sake of research, so she'll fund it like research. She then calls off Beerus and Whis, telling him she has some good food for them, as well as an offer. They kinda regret giving Bulma the ability to contact because it seems like she just calls when she needs help. But she yells at them to get over here because it's important, kinda terrifying them. And they get there and see that Bulma just wants 2 people to train on Beerus' planet. Goku's also come along too. And he thinks this is a great idea. Having Cell and Gohan go along would be awesome. He wanted Gohan to go in the first place. But especially with Cell there, that could be awesome. And Beerus is kind of intrigued, not just because he's being bribed with food, but because of the power that he noticed from these two. It seems that Gohan has some sort of hidden power locked away, and as for Cell, well, they don't know what his limits are like. And it seems there's only one way to find out. Months and months pass from this point. Gohan and Cell go to Beerus' planet, training on and off again. And now Gohan does have to go back and forth occasionally, which does annoy Beerus a bit, but he gets bribed with food, so hey, whatever. Plus, he does get to see a bit of his power. And when Gohan's back on Earth, he does work with Bulma on Earth trying to find a scientific way for him to evolve. She says they're all so used to regular training that they haven't even considered the scientific side to it. She can make their transformations a lot easier. This worked with Super Saiyan as well. She was able to help Goku get a better control in it just because she was able to study it. And hey, even if she can't find a form for herself or Yamcha or anybody, she at least wants to try it for Goku and Gohan. Of course, Raditz and crew eventually get wind of this, wondering what the hell they're trying to do there. They want to go to Beerus' planet and train because they want to get whatever godly power that is, but now it seems like Gohan's working for something different. And it makes Raditz feel all high and mighty, telling the other two Saiyans that's his nephew. Ever since he became the strongest Saiyan, he's been getting kind of an ego trip. By strongest Saiyan, I mean strongest of the three. He's still weak in comparison to Goku and Gohan. But hey, still pretty strong in his own right. Although they wonder if Gohan could really ascend Super Saiyan 2. That seems like their limit besides going into godly forms. Is there truly something beyond that? Soon enough, the Tournament of Power begins because Zeno does get bored at some point, and after watching the Universe 6 tournament, he wants to do this one. And they're not short on people this time. They actually have way too many people here. I imagine the team would be Goku, Cell, Gohan, Bulma, Yamcha, Chi-Chi, Krillin, Piccolo, Gamma 1, and Gamma 2. Now Universe 3 isn't the only one with robots on their team. But they're not using Gamma 1 and 2 because they're short on fighters, they're using them because they're powerful. They have way more people they could ask to help. Videl, Chaozu, Tenshinhan, Roshi, hell, even Vegeta and Nappa could have joined. Same for Raditz, obviously. And they don't know Android 17 well, but he could have joined here. Plus Android 18, but she wasn't really too interested, despite Krillin going. Besides, after what went different with the androids, those two aren't much of fighters anyways here, even with their amazing power. The Saiyans want to actually join too, but there's no spots left. Although Raditz tries to sneak in on his own, kind of like Yamcha did in the original story, although he's a lot more persuasive here. He almost resorts to death threats, but realizes he could do a more level-headed approach. He actually tries to reason with Krillin, and Krillin lets Raditz take his spot. And it's not because Krillin's weak or anything, he's probably stronger than normal in this scenario actually. But it's because Krillin thinks that Raditz's power will be more helpful here. He is stronger than Krillin, but Vegeta and Nappa are a bit annoyed that they can't join either. They try and have Chi-Chi switch spots with them, but she won't. And as for Bulma and Yamcha, those two are actually above the Saiyans right now, thanks to their amazing training and resources. Besides, it's not like they would have switched anyways. Once again, Raditz gets an ego trip. He gets to join the team while they don't. And in a fit of anger, Vegeta and Nappa decide to leave Earth for a bit. They have another idea in the meantime, so they go out into space for now. Although the last few members don't matter too much anyways because Universe 7's team is already busted. Gohan has unlocked a brand new power thanks to Bulma researching how to stimulate his cells like a transformation. They've experimented with this together. He found it fascinating. And it's not like he didn't work for this. He did work for it, but he worked for it in a much different way than normal. Instead of normal training and such, this was his scholarly side coming into play. Although there was some physical training involved too. And Bulma takes a lot of pride in it. Again, she might have not found a new form for herself, but this is still nice because she did find a new form. And she's glad because this tournament will be a great test for that. Telling Goku it's kind of funny. Goku helped Gohan discover Super Saiyan, but she helped Gohan discover something even greater. Goku says she doesn't need to rub it in, but yeah, he is pretty happy about this too. Besides, Goku's got something of his own locked away too. Thanks to having a great training partner with Cell, he also has his own brand new power, something that he's working towards. The tournament begins and everyone decides to show off what they've learned. It's funny for Bulma and Yamcha at first because they see some other people using ki weapons. But the two find it kind of funny, since most of them are basic things like swords. They decide to show off some real ki weapons. By now, Bulma has such a perfect control over ki, as well as Yamcha, that both of them can basically create anything that they can imagine from ki. But just as important, we gotta show off the skills that everyone else has learned in the meantime. Goku and Cell's training was very effective, especially with Cell now getting a full access to godly ki. He's strong as is, and anything Goku does, he's able to copy pretty quickly. Although, Cell knows that he's overpowered, so he lets Goku have his fun here, deciding that he can go at the strong opponents. Goku has gotten something that Whis really wanted him to get. He doesn't have complete access to it, but he can sort of tap into it at will. Goku decides to go fight Jiren. At first he shows off his normal powers, the ones that people have seen, including a relatively new one, Blue Kaioken. But he does have one more in store. A strange aura surrounds him. All the gods look on with amazement and terror. His demeanor completely changes, and it looks like he starts just moving automatically. His physical appearance hasn't changed much, but Goku's utilizing a new form, Ultra Instinct Omen. He's briefly seen the complete version of UI, but at least for the time being, he has access to this way earlier on, mainly thanks to having the perfect training partner there, Cell. Cell could also utilize the same thing here, but again, he's gonna let Goku have his fun. Also, if there is an issue with Goku, Gohan might just want to jump in too because he's also testing out his new power. But it might have been better if Gohan fought Jiren because this is a little too much. The other fighters in Universe 7 watch on as Gohan transforms, a little bit shocked to see this new change, especially Chi-Chi. She didn't think he would look like that when he transformed. As much as she hated the delinquent hair, this is even worse. His hair's grown far longer, it's completely white, his eyes have turned red. he looks scary. This is what Bulma helped him unlock? This is Gohan's own new, unique form, Beast Gohan. The culmination of all his training, a display of his inner rage, and the product of scientific research between him and Bulma. Truly a testament to who Gohan is as a warrior. Which is also great because, as you could probably guess by now, the tournament isn't exactly too hard. You have Goku who already has Ultra Instinct early on. Although this might make it a bit too easy for him, and he won't have a catalyst to push him to Ultra Instinct right away, so he'll be an omen for the entire tournament. I will say though that the scenario's Goku is stronger and more skillful in base than the main story's Goku at this point. And then of course Gohan and Cell are there. And the rest of the team's pretty great in their own right too. Especially with the addition of Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 on the team. On the surface it may not entirely look like it, but so much of this team was affected by Bulma. Cell was made by her. Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, if she didn't find Hedo, they wouldn't have been made right now. Beast Gohan was accessed through science and training. Then of course Bulma herself grew like that. And everyone else on the team, especially Yamcha, benefited from her scientific input. That even does include Goku. Although he more so likes finding out how to improve himself on his own. But with that, the tournament is complete. Universe 7 takes the win, and I feel like they would wish the universes back. For an MVP, it would probably be someone like Gohan who would be the leader here, but I feel like pretty much anyone on this team would wish for that. Raditz is the only one I'd be concerned about, but he's not going to be MVP. But speaking of Raditz, once they get back to Earth after the tournament, the other two Saiyans are gone. Where do they go? What, did they abandon him again like they did so many years ago? Whatever, he's used to it at this point. Besides, it's better being on Earth. He doesn't know where they went off to, but he doesn't care. They're probably just jealous of his strength and the fact that he got into the tournament. Following this would be the Moro arc, but nothing's really going to happen here. First of all, if Moro did get freed, Cell would be able to fight him pretty easily. He has instant transmission, time control, Ultra Instinct, and if he studied Moro for a bit, he could just copy his abilities and counter it that way. But Moro probably wouldn't even be freed here. Buu wasn't destroyed. Shin and Kibito did get Buu's egg and actually just contained it on their planet. They didn't destroy it. So without Buu being destroyed, the seal on Moro doesn't get destroyed either, meaning he's not going to be able to escape or regain some of his magic. But even in the off chance that he does, it's not really going to be a big deal. And that's not even considering the fact that Cell already has access to magic too. I mean, he has some of Babidi's DNA. He's the perfect counter, and he'd be able to do that really easily. Plus, he even has the Mafuba because he has the data from all the fighters around him. He has so many ways to defeat Moro that it wouldn't be an issue. But he's not freed in the first place. And then as for Granola, that's not really going to happen either. It's probably going to be business as usual for him and the Heaters, because without Frieza there's not really anything to push that even further. And plus, without the Moro arc, they don't have 7-3 in all his data. Small note, but worth mentioning. As for Superhero, that's obviously not going to happen. The Gammas are already made, and Red Pharmaceuticals isn't going to get Hedo on their team. Maybe they'll be able to make some sort of androids, but they're not going to be nearly as good as whatever Hedo can make. So that arc doesn't happen. Although there is one arc after the Tournament of Power that I just skipped here. But don't worry, I didn't forget about it. About a year after the tournament, Vegeta and Nappa do return to Earth. But strangely enough, they didn't come back alone. They have 3 new people with them. Yes, Vegeta and Nappa have been training out in space, but more so, they wanted to see if they could find any other Saiyans out there, because maybe that's the key to strength. If they find other Saiyans and look at how they grow, it could benefit them. Although that didn't really happen, but they did find one that was really interesting. One of the Saiyans they found is Tarbell, Vegeta's brother, who's the weakest by far. But then there's 2 others that are pretty interesting. Paragus, who's an older Saiyan, and his son, Broly. They've noticed some pretty interesting things about Broly, and thankfully, they're able to avoid being killed by him. Nappa was the one to actually find the 2, and then once they got to Vegeta, they realized that this was their best bet of getting off of Ampa. Plus, they met him in space, and if they killed him there, their ship would have been destroyed, and everyone would have died. It did take a while, and Paragus is still really reluctant to be with them, but at least those 2 get a happy ending and they get off Ampa. Plus, Tarbell's actually there with his wife too, but he'll probably return to his home planet sometime. He was curious about seeing this new planet though. But they're going to still continue to look for Saiyans because there might be others out there. Especially with all these other survivors, there has to be someone else. Now, they don't know for sure, but this is the best way to combine their Saiyan power and grow even stronger. And Raditz actually likes this idea. Maybe this way they could also pass Kakarot and his sons. So this might be a next best step for them. Now we jump back forward to the present, around the time where a superhero would have happened, I guess. Bulma actually is on Beerus' planet one day because she goes there from time to time to observe how it is there. She does feel pretty content with where she is now. She achieved all her goals and has helped her friends grow a lot. Her goal never was to become the strongest. Originally, it was just to maintain her good looks, but that goal has completely changed. She saw how great it was to be a warrior like this, to learn martial arts, to fight like that. And she's glad that happened. Plus, her original goal was somewhat maintained. It's just strange for her to think that this started off as something so simple and petty. But she found a whole new world that she wasn't even aware of, figuratively and literally, seeing how great this all is. All her friends benefited alongside it too. And she gets to see the product of what she helped with. The reason she's here is because she's watching a battle between her friends. Beerus is pretty pleased with the rivals that he has on this planet, to the point where even he starts training again. Goku has full access to Ultra Instinct and is really good with it now. Gohan's been utilizing his beast form more, and of course he's split between training and his home life, but he has a great balance here. And then of course there's Cell, the perfect warrior who has insane growth. And all 3 of these warriors, they've benefited from Bulma's help. Sure, we might have not focused on them too much in this series. We didn't even really get to see Cell do too much. But this isn't their story, this is Bulma's. Although even when you look at it like that, consider the fact that they're all in a much better place where they would have been without her being a Z fighter. And not just them, all the other people back on Earth. There's also the people that would have been dead but are alive and thriving. Raditz and Nappa who would have died originally, Cell who would have been evil and would have died. And sure, while she's not the strongest, she's glad that her friends are. Watching a 1v1v1 between Goku, Gohan, and Cell. A battle so amazing that it terrifies Beerus. These mortals have surpassed the gods, and it's all thanks to Bulma. And this is where our story ends. What'd you guys think about this story as a whole? I wanted to try to take a different route with Bulma. And personally, I like the route that I took here, but let me know what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And now that you've finished this series, I'll link a similar story on screen that you guys might like. Anyways, thank you all for watching, thanks for supporting the story all the way through, and I'll see you all in my next video.